So good morning members and welcome to this meeting of Bridgend County Borough Council Standards Committee on the 16th of November. The meeting is being held hybrid today. The meeting is being recorded and will be placed on the Council's website as soon as practicable after the meeting. As I've said, everybody participating today is actually accessing from remote locations, and therefore could everybody ensure your mobile phones are switched off or to silent. Members, you will have all received an electronic copy of the agenda. I'll run through a brief summary of each of the items, and for the record, the agenda can be viewed on the Council's websites. In respect of the cameras, I'd be grateful if the members could keep them on for the duration of the meeting. Members and officers will be speaking at various points during the meeting, and those speaking may switch their microphones on at that point. If any members want to raise a point or a question, you should press the hands up icon on the screen, and I can then come to you in the order I receive the requests. And as you'll be aware, we've got officers from Democratic Services supporting the meeting, and they'll monitor the use of the microphones throughout the meeting. Okay, if I can just take you then to the first agenda item this morning. So we've got apologies for absence. As I've said, we've had apologies from Philip Clark, and I think apart from that, we've got a full house here today. So next, if we move on to declarations of interest, do any members have any declarations to declare in relation to the reports you've received? No? Good. So we'll move on to minutes. So we've got minutes for approval from the meeting of the 7th of July 2023, and obviously at that time, there was only a limited number of you who were present. So those who were present at that time, it's over to you really to confirm whether they're an accurate record. Gavin?
Can I move that they are an accurate record of the meeting?
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. So next we've got our first substantive item, which is the appointment of the chairperson and vice chairperson of the committee. So if I can take you to the report, which is in your pack, obviously the under the Standards Committee Wales regulation, the members of the Standards Committee shall elect a chairperson from amongst the independent members of the committee. At the current time, the Standards Committee consists of 5 independent members, 2 County Borough Council members and 1 Town and Community Council member. There is a current vacancy for the position of chairperson due to the resignation of the previous chair. The report at paragraph 3.1 sets out the role description of the chair. And it should be noted, if the chair is absent from the meeting, the vice chair shall preside. If both the chair and the vice chair are absent, the committee shall choose another independent member to preside just for that meeting. Members, I therefore take you to the recommendations and ask if you could nominate a chair and a vice chair. Councillor Walter?
Thank you, Kelly. I'd like to nominate Sean Cullen as chair and Sue Morn as vice chair.
Thank you. Gavin?
Can I second that nomination, please?
Thank you. Any objections? Sean and Sue, are you both happy to take over those positions?
Yeah.
Thank you both. We'll be in touch. Thank you both. We'll be in touch and then we can provide you with some guidance about what the chair does. And, you know, I assume you're familiar with Teams, but just we can give an overview of how to deal with the hands up, hands down. Thank you. Thank you both. I'll carry on going through the reports for today, and obviously, Sean, you can take over then in your substantive role as the chair from the next meeting. So if I move on to the next report on our agenda, which is the Public Services Ombudsman for Wales Annual Letter 2022-2023. So every year we get the annual letter from the Ombudsman. As you'll be aware, it's independent of all government bodies and it has the legal powers to investigate complaints about public services and independent care providers in Wales. The Ombudsman also investigates complaints that members of local government bodies have breached the authority's code of conduct. In Bridgend, we have a complaints officer who is the contact officer for the Ombudsman, and also myself as the monitoring officer is responsible for liaising with the Ombudsman in relation to code of conduct complaints. The annual letter is in your report at Appendix A, and this shows that the number of complaints against the authority for 2022-23 was 55, which is the same number of complaints we received the previous year. The figure for that period represents 0.38 complaints received per 1,000 residents. Social services and planning building control attracted the largest number of complaints. As you can see there, there's a breakdown. 10 cases were out of jurisdiction, 17 were premature, 25 were closed after initial consideration, and 4 were settled with the Ombudsman for early resolution. 1 complaint proceeded to investigation and was upheld. In addition to those corporate complaints, there were 6 code of conduct complaints against the authority's councillors, 5 of which were discontinued and 1 was referred to the Standards Committee, which was heard by the committee in July 2023. They also received 25 code of conduct complaints against town and community councillors in the borough, none of which were referred to the Standards Committee. 23 of them, there was a decision taken not to investigate, and in 2 cases, they deemed no action was necessary. Members, I therefore take any questions you have and ask you to note the annual letter for 22-23. Are there any questions from members? Gavin?
Is the report in the public domain?
Yes, the report went to the Governance and Audit Committee, I think last week or the week before. And it's also been published as part of the papers for today. So yes, it is in the public domain. And also if you go on the Ombudsman website, I believe they have data sets with some background data to it as well. Councillor Williams.
Thanks. A couple of observations. In Appendix F, it refers to the Town and Community Council. This is just pedantry, really, on my part. It refers to the Town and Community Council complaints, but the table isn't complete. It's only some of the Town and Community Councils. So whilst if it's not there, clearly there probably isn't a complaint. There might be an inference drawn. So could we ask the Public Services Ombudsman to put a complete list in future so that we have all 20 councils listed there, please?
What we've clarified with the Ombudsman is they don't have a complete list of town and community councils in Wales. So what they do is if they have a complaint about a town or community council, they add them to the list. So you'll see in that chart, there will be some that got 0 because they haven't had a complaint this year, but they have previously had a complaint. So they know they can go on the list. So what it means really is if a town and community council has never had a complaint against them, they don't get on the list. Now, what we can do is we can provide a full list of our town and community councils to the Ombudsman. It's obviously a matter for the Ombudsman office whether they then change their reporting format, but we'll certainly send that full list on to them, Councillor Williams.
Thanks. And I've got a second question. Anecdotally, it seems over the last few years, we had a huge amount of a large number of complaints emanating from certain town and community councils. And it does seem that that's quietened down. And I won't name the councils, but there's a couple of them that seem to generate quite a lot of complaints. Do we have any sort of trending to see how over the last 5 years, how these complaints have, how many complaints have been raised and per community council? Because it does seem that it's getting better, but I don't necessarily have the evidence to prove that, and it'd be quite nice to see whether it's getting better or not, because I think there was a lot of politicising of complaints, and I hope that's sort of calmed down now.
Yeah, the data the official data we'd rely on is what's published by the Ombudsman, and we can compare that year on year, so we can go back sort of 5 years to see where we are with that data. There's also what I would class as more informal complaints, and these are complaints that are sent to me. And then obviously I respond, I advise where I can, but if it's at a certain level, then obviously I have to advise them to go to the Ombudsman. In some cases they do, and in some cases they don't. So what I can say is the level of complaints reflected in the Ombudsman's report doesn't reflect the level of complaints I'm getting in my inbox. Although, of course, you know, they're at different levels and for different reasons. But again, certainly I can collate, if you'd like, the last 5 years data from the annual letter.
Well, the only reason I say 5 years is because council terms are 5 years. It was simply that, yeah.
What I'll do is, Councillor Williams, is I'll get the team to pull that data together and I'll circulate via email to all members, just some comparison year on year.
Thanks, that's appreciated, thanks.
Thank you. Sean?
Just out of interest as a new member, obviously we get the data there, but do we get to see what those complaints are about and the substance of them? Because obviously just saying it's a complaint against social services or building control, I don't know what the substance is of those complaints, and it maybe be useful to understand what they are, but I don't know whether we're privy to that.
So in terms of the corporate complaints, that detail doesn't come to the Standards Committee because the Standards Committee are obviously to look at councillor complaints. So you don't get the corporate complaint data. That is shared, but again, the substantive detail of individual cases isn't shared with the Governance and Audit Committee because there are personal details in there. They do get a slightly wider explanation of the breakdown between planning, social services and other departments. In terms of complaints to the Ombudsman about councillors, you will get reports during the year where if the Ombudsman has decided to investigate, I will update you. And obviously if they go forward then and they refer something back to the Standards Committee, I report that back as well.
Thanks.
Sue?
Just following on from Councillor Williams's earlier point, obviously if the Ombudsman does not want to sort of publish a full list of community councils, would it add value to this report if Bridgend Council actually added it as an amendment to the Ombudsman report so that it is clear in the public domain of all the councillors, community councillors, and whether there have been any issues against them? I think it's just that kind of transparency.
I think I'm happy to publish the full list of our town and community councils. Obviously, we can't amend the Ombudsman's letter. That is what it is, that stands. I can put in another list of our complaints. What I would be reluctant to do is to put in the informal complaints that I have received, because some of them are just people querying whether something, you know, should be a complaint or shouldn't be a complaint. So, but I'm happy, yeah, to do the full list and to say that there's been no complaints referred to the Ombudsman.
That would be great, because I mean, as you say, on the current list, once they appear on the list, they get a 0 rating if they haven't had any more.
Yes.
So it's a similar kind of approach being taken. Thank you.
Peter?
Also, following on from Councillor Williams's question and recommendation, I'd say that it would be quite beneficial to sort of share the data, because it does seem to be quite a lot of complaints received compared to, you know, other areas, and a lot of the cases seem to be closed at quite an early stage in comparison as well. I haven't looked at the data, so it'd be quite useful to maybe delve a bit deeper into the data to sort of learn from the data that's gathered and shared.
Yes. If I can just update, the Ombudsman's office have changed their process fairly recently. So going back 6-12 months ago, what used to happen is that somebody would complain to the Ombudsman's office about an elected member. I would get sent a copy of the complaint. Obviously, the member concerned would get sent a copy of the complaint. And then I could keep a list of what was going on. They changed their process now. So now they only inform myself and I believe the member once they've made a decision whether to investigate or not. So they will have the complaint, they will deal with it in the background. And I've had one today, a decision notice to say they're not taking it further. But then they don't send the details of the complaint. So that's all I've got today is the name of the member, a very brief synopsis of what the complaint was about and the decision not to investigate. So a lot of complaints that go to the Ombudsman don't proceed to investigation. So what I would be giving you in those circumstances is a list of cases that haven't gone anywhere. The ones that are investigated, obviously we can provide a bit more detail about that, and the investigation report would generally then come back to Standards Committee. Okay, any more observations or comments? No? Can I get a mover and a seconder, please?
I'll move, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Gavin?
Yeah, and I'll second it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both. There we go. If we move on to our next report, and this has been generated as a request really from the committee, and I'm aware that some of you weren't on it at the time. So we've had a request if we can arrange observations of town and community council meetings and Bridgend County Borough Council meetings. So this report is just to give you an overview of a process to do that. So it's obviously a matter for the committee which meetings you'd like to attend. We have set out in paragraph 3 some of our observations about which meetings may be beneficial. So as you can see there, we've got BCBC full council meetings, as these are pivotal and where all county borough elected members meet and political discussions take place. We've also included an overview and scrutiny committee, as it provides an opportunity for members to hold the executive and senior officers to account. We felt it would be useful to observe town and community council meetings to undertake observations from the clerks and the chairs of town and community councils, which will assist the committee in sharing good practice and giving feedback to the town and community councils. We didn't feel, but obviously it is a matter for the committee, that the Governance and Audit Committee should be observed, only because it is regularly observed by other external regulators. So Audit Wales tend to be there, every meeting. Obviously, you're more than welcome to attend, but we were not certain you'd get much from that one. And obviously, then we got regulatory committees like Development Control and Licensing. So what our proposal was is if we produce a calendar of meetings from now until May, when we have the AGM. We'll circulate that to all members, and then members can decide whether they would like to attend meetings either in person or online. What we'll do is we'll contact the chairs of those particular meetings to let them know, and we'll also share with our internal group leaders. We've also produced a observation sheet so that you as members can feed back to the committee and to the chairs and the clerks of the town and community councils any observations you have from those meetings. So the purpose today is to note the report and approve the process, and then obviously we will circulate the details of the meetings and we can coordinate a timetable of who attends what meetings and when. Okay, Councillor Walter.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm happy to propose that we note and accept the recommendations that have been put forward, and understanding the workload that perhaps the Governance and Audit Committee would not be observed. My request probably would be not so much a request, a suggestion. That when it comes to observing town and community councils, and you put those into the schedule, that we start with those where there've been the highest number of complaints against members, and then work down and see where we go from there. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walter. Gavin?
I 100% agree with it. I just wanted it noted for all the new members of the committee. I am actually a member of my state town council. So just so that everybody's aware of that when they see. But I 100% support the Standards Committee attending meetings and in the order that Councillor Walters has suggested. Thank
you. Councillor Williams?
Yeah, I'm supportive of that suggestion. The only caveat I would say is that from memory, they might be coming from certain larger councils, and we do have quite a mixed bag of councils. Some large ones who have permanent setups, and others who are effectively councils out of a bag who meet in the school hall. So just so that there's a good mix, that people pick up, you know, that broad range of different type of council. That's my only point.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. I think what I was going to suggest is, whilst I think we do need to delve deeper into those councils that are, you know, prone to complaints, it would also be good for you to go to other councils who don't have complaints. So, you know, presumably there is some good practice there that you can share with the councils who perhaps are generating more complaints. Roy?
Yeah, I support the idea of observation. Can you give us some idea of how you, as the monitoring officer, support the town clerks? Do we have any support in place?
Yes, so I offer training to all town and community councils. So I offer them code of conduct training for the members. In relation to the clerks, there's a town and community council forum, and there is a clerks forum. It's not particularly well attended, but we are promoting it. As you can imagine, I'm in touch with some clerks more than I'm in touch with other clerks. For some clerks, I'm in touch with them, you know, it feels like on a weekly basis, offering advice and guidance. Others, I genuinely couldn't tell you who the clerk is in certain town and community councils, because they just operate and they don't need my involvement at all. But the offer of support is always there. Even the ones that we don't hear from, they get copied into the information that we send out, and they get invited to all the training and the forum events.
Okay, right. Thanks so much. I'm just aware of a previous report saying how town council clerks are sort of either giving up the job due to bullying and harassment. So I'm just concerned that we support them, really. So that's great. Thanks so much.
Yeah, there is a slight difference with employment issues, because obviously Bridgend Council are not the employer of town and community clerks, so there is only so much support we can give, because the town council or the community council is the employer, and it's not for me or anybody else in Bridgend Council to step on the toes of the employer. So we don't have much involvement in sort of HR issues within town and community councils. Sean?
Yeah, just to reiterate what everyone else has said, and I think as a new member of the committee, it would be really useful to attend and view and see what happens. So yeah, fully supported.
Thank you all. I take it then I got a mover and a seconder. Yeah. Sue?
Yeah, happy to support that.
Lovely. Gavin?
Yeah, I'll second it. It's fine. Thank you.
Thank you all. What we'll do now is we'll pull together a timetable. What we'll include in the timetable will be full council, some scrutiny committees, and then some town and community council committees. Obviously they meet differently, so we'll get you, and they will tend to be in the evenings, I imagine, for those councillors who are on those committees. Do they tend to meet in the evening?
Yeah, sorry, my State Town Council meets at 6:30, first Tuesday of a month.
Right. So we'll get those dates pulled together by linking in with the clerks, and we'll get that circulated, and then perhaps if the independent members can then identify which ones they're interested in attending or available for, and we can get those links set up. Okay. Thank you all. Me quickly.
Sorry, Kelly.
Sorry.
Sorry. Would you be able to share the observation form just so that we're getting an idea of what we're looking for, and then if we did have any feedback, you know, I'm sure it's fine, but just some other perspectives might add into it.
Yes, yeah, we'll share that, and what we'll do is once, possibly not the next meeting, to give it time for you to see a couple, but probably in a couple of meetings time, we'll have a report back then where we'll share the observations, and as a committee you can identify some good practice and then decide how you want to communicate that back to the town and community councils. Councillor Walter?
Thanks, Kelly. Just going back to the scheduling of meetings to observe, can I raise a little bit of caution in terms of observing some of the scrutiny meetings? because the independent members won't be aware that some of them last between 3 to upwards of 5 hours with appropriate breaks during the daytime. And perhaps they should be lower down or significantly lower down the priority list if independent members are working, and so on and so forth. That's just an observation. I'm hoping Martin would agree with me. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Walter. I think, you know, that there isn't going to be any obligation on any members to stay for the duration of the meeting. You know, you're more, particularly if it's online, you're welcome to dip in and out, put it on in the back, you know, put it on in the background and carry on with your work. But yeah, completely appreciate that some of the meetings are quite time consuming, and a lot of the actual BCBC meetings will be during the daytime. Okay, if there's nothing further on that point, we'll continue with the agenda. The next item is urgent items, and we don't have any. We rarely, if ever, have urgent items for this committee. So that is the end of the meeting today. I'd like to thank you all again for your attendance. It's good to see a full complement of new faces, and look forward to working with you all in the future. And again, thanks to Sean and to Sue for stepping up as the chair and the vice chair. Thanks all, and we'll be in touch soon.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, everybody.